What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. It's day 2 of NBA free agency, and so I'm bringing you a compilation of everything that happened today. Some of the finer details, like the Klay Thompson trade or the Paul George signing, those were covered in their own videos, so go check those out. But I want to make sure that we're touching on all these little moves. We're trying to be a little more detailed on this channel and everything, and every move has some sort of significance, and it's all a part of this big game of chess that's being played in the NBA. So I want to make sure I try to cover all of it. Hey, make sure you guys go like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. But remember, we're trying to be better than the rest of the internet too. Don't just put brain rot out there or being rude, otherwise I'll hit you with what I call an objection. And if you still don't want to cooperate, then you get hidden and you don't get to participate on the channel anymore. But all right, let's get into the video. And so we're going at this thing in chronological order. I just feel like that's a good way to kind of tell the story, and it's just an easier way to organize things for me. Obviously, last night, despite my pleads, Paul George signed in the middle of the night. Go watch my video on that if you want to check it out. It then was culminated by Tyrese Maxiell getting his contract, so the Sixers boys are locked up, right? We kind of touched on Tyrese Maxiell in a previous video because we knew that this deal was coming. He deserves it. He's a great young star coming into the NBA, extremely talented guy, very versatile, much like Paul George, honestly. I think it's a really interesting pairing to have them together. I think it's a really good fit. Like Paul George and Tyrese Maxiell, I feel like could kind of just fit anywhere, and they've proven that they can do that. So shout out to those guys. But as far as the first official news or whatever, my Chicago Bulls went and made a move for Jaylen Smith. 3 years, $27 million. I think that's a great deal for Jaylen Smith. $9 million a year to come in and probably be a backup center for the Bulls, and we'll see if anything happens with Vucevic at any point with the team. But Jaylen Smith does a little bit of everything. Could play a little bit of defense. He's a pretty good athlete. He's got good size to him. One of the things that I always find interesting about him is that he can step out and hit a three-point shot. He was good for the Pacers in this last season, man, and he's just quietly been a nice NBA player. I never understood why the Phoenix Suns didn't want to retain him after they took him with the 10th pick, not too long ago at the end of the day. So I'm excited to have him come into the Bulls. I think he's a guy that we could try to develop into. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter by any means, but I think he's a nice young guy to bring in and see what we got. We needed another big on the team, so there we go. We got a backup center in Jaylen Smith. I'm waiting for the Bulls to make more moves, man. We got to see. Apparently they're trying to dump Lonzo and Levine, which Levine, I'm willing to bet that'll happen. The Lonzo one's a little bit trickier. Next up, this was a big one today. Isaiah Hartenstein gets a big 3-year, $87 million. What is that? How much money is that? Is that $29 million a year if I'm doing my math right? $29 million a year to go to OKC. So let's be clear, right? OKC, what did they need? They needed big, strong body, set screens, rebounds, block shot, do all those things, right? They needed more of a traditional center in that sense because they just got completely outmanned, if you will, in terms of that skill set. They brought that guy in, right? Where I get a little bit curious is their plan to play him and Chet together? And so let me take you into the minds of a basketball coach, and especially a statistician basketball coach like I am. So there's something in economics called a cross price equilibrium. It's where it's where price and a quantity meet each other at this perfect even state on a scale. And what I try to do is achieve that in basketball, meaning putting guys in the exact right balance that we get the maximum value out of the team we have right here. And so while I like Isaiah Hartenstein a lot, I really do, I think he's a really nice player and everything, does moving Chet to the 4 really mess with his value, right? Because some of the things that make Chet really good at his position, right, is he's much more agile than most people at his position. He can go up and he can block shots and stuff, right? And he can kind of take people off the dribble from his position. If he's not playing the center anymore and he's kind of forced to the outside, do we lose some of the defensive value that is Chet? Is it going to be a problem for him trying to guard perimeter guys at times if they try to run them together? Maybe they're just going to flip-flop him and it doesn't really matter as much, but it seems weird to pay a guy this much money to be more of a reserve center. Obviously, Chet can space the floor and that's really cool, but that just means he's going to have more agile guys on him at all times, and so it's going to make it harder for him to go create anything after that. I don't know. I just I think we all know that that's not where we want Chet to be long term. So I'm curious at the very least. We still give an applaud to the Thunder and everything. Those guys they're just nailing every single move that they do. This is just a guy that they need, and at the end of the day, they have a good problem on their hands, is that they're okay, what do we do with all this talent that we have, right? And so I'm curious from a basketball mind how you get that to work, because while you might be plugging a hole by doing this, you're also lowering the impact of somebody else potentially. So just something to think about. Next Next up, Tobias Harris got his 2-year, $52 million contract. And like, let's be honest, I think this is kind of the deal that like all of us saw coming. I saw a couple people being like, really, that much money for him? It's like, yeah, that's how much money you're getting for Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a pretty good basketball player at the end of the day. Like, you can say whatever you want about him, but like Tobias Harris has been a really good player in the NBA for a long time at this point. And like, I actually want to like applaud the Pistons for this move. Like, we've been kind of shitting on them the whole offseason. This was the kind of move that they needed to make. Go get veteran guys that can come in and help you win right now. Hopefully they bring Fontecchio back too, because if you bring Fontecchio back and you got like a Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, and Fontecchio, it's like, okay, like, yeah, there's some dudes on this team now that have played like NBA basketball and they can space the floor and play around Cade and stuff like that. Because, like, man, with the amount of money we've given Cade, we have got to give him something to work with, man, something. So maybe you combine some of these guys with like a Sar Thompson, Jalen Duren, and like, it's still not going to be a good team, but it's like you're getting at least some like winning culture guys in now, and that's what's so important for this team. Like, you're not. I was actually talking with like some other coaches about this today because I preach it to you guys here all the time. I'm like, you can bring all the young guys onto a team if you want, but if you guys just go and get like fucking spanked every single night, you're not getting better. I promise you, you're not. You can play as much basketball as you want, and like you're not getting that level of improvement. You have to start winning some games at some point. Like, it just becomes demoralizing to people, and they don't want to go out there and do it. And that's what the Pistons have been the past couple seasons. So you got to start putting some sort of team together where you can start winning some games right now. Otherwise, you're just going to waste away the talent that you have. So we applaud them for getting Tobias here. It's only 2 seasons, right? Like, who else were you going to pay in this time? So you go in, you get a winner, a guy that should be able to help contribute right away. So I love this. And Tobias gets one last payday. Good for him. Next up, we got Drew Eubanks getting a 2-year, $10 million contract. Like, this just tells you the state of the NBA and how much money there is at this point. Drew Eubanks, who, like, arguably wasn't, like, the most effective, like, center in basketball last year. That's probably the best way to put it. Gets a 2-year, $10 million deal. Like, hey, like, applauds to them, right? Like, they're getting their money, man. If this many people are watching the game, they deserve it, right? That's how the sport works. We're in the entertainment business at the end of the day. So shout out Drew Eubanks. Should be able to come in and be a nice, like, kind of reserve forward for them. And you guys know what I have to say. You're adding another lengthy white to the Jazz. You just couldn't resist, could you? Got to keep adding them lengthy whites to the team. I love to see it, honestly. I think it is a smart pickup. Just kind of bolster like the front court a little bit more off the bench. Jazz are always trying to make winning moves, so I think this was a good value add for them. Luka Garza is returning to the Timberwolves on a 2-year deal. I'm going to guess it's pretty close to a minimum or something like that. Luka Garza, like, was not somebody when he was coming into the NBA that I thought was going to be very effective, but, you know, he increases athleticism quite a bit, and he knows how to play to his strengths using, like, and when I say strengths, his strengths are his strength, right? Like, dude is strong as all hell. Like, whenever he gets in the game, he plays with a ton of energy. He really goes at the rim. Like, he's like the biggest frat dude, like, of all time, you know, like, literally, like, I mean by like the biggest frat dude. That's just what it seems like. He's like a bigger Gronk or something like that. And so I love the fact that you've got a guy like that in the reserves. Like, for how much size the Timberwolves have, like, it's really cool that you still have one waiting in the wings that you could throw in at any times and still be a real physical presence. So that's definitely a guy you wanted to keep around in Minnesota. I think it's really good that they did that. He earned his way onto the roster and everything. That's good for development's sake. That's a good culture builder. So yeah, shout out Luka Garza for getting his contract. Good move by Minnesota. Milwaukee makes a move and goes and finds their backup point guard, bringing in Delan Wright. Delan Wright had some really good moments for the Heat last year once he kind of finally joined them. Delan Wright has just kind of had some really solid moments in the NBA, though, throughout his whole career. Like, there's points where he's been a good three-point shooter, a good defender, a good, like, ball handler and stuff like that. He's got good size at the point guard. So I think for, like, a backup point guard on a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, where you have so many other, like, kind of guys on this team, I think this is a really nice, subtle addition. A guy that should kind of remind you of a Drew Holiday type thing, a guy where he's just gonna kind of go out there and do the right thing. I stutter a little bit, like, calling anybody like Drew Holiday because it's hard to match that. But you guys kind of know what I mean, like, kind of that point guard that can fit a bunch of different roles and everything like that, and is just going to try to make winning plays at all times. So I think this is kind of a low-key, like, really good move. It feels like a Doc Rivers type of guy, right? So I support this move from Milwaukee. I think it's a good one. We're getting into some of the money moves. Dereck White got his 4-year, $125 million contract extension. Good for him. Are we surprised? Like, Dereck White was, like, absolutely, like, on fire the entire playoffs. So really good to see. Glad Dereck White got his money and everything like that. No complaints at all. And then more Celtics news. It sounds like they're going to sell the team, which, like, man, Like, I know it's at an all-time high and everything, and yeah, obviously I have no idea what these guys are doing in their personal lives and everything like that, right? Like, and they might just be trying to slow life down or whatever, but man, I'd be one of those guys, and I feel like a lot of us would say that if we were like that rich, but like for the amount of time it like takes to like work and get into a spot like that, you're probably just exhausted. But man, I just kind of want to die with the team, man. That's how I'd be, but I don't know. I'm a little bit weird at the end of the day. So Nick Batum, 2 years, about $10 million to join the Clippers. So the Clippers are really trying to stay competitive, man. They're still trying to sign winning players and everything. And notice that like all these guys aren't getting like 1-year deals. I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to remain competitive for this year. And then what they're going to do is they're going to be like, okay, yeah, we're not that good right now. It's totally fine. We've got all these interesting players that we can take and trade to try and go get some assets and bring them in, right? Because we have like no future right now. It looks really, really gross. So I think they're making a lot of smart moves by trying to still be competitive this year, because why wouldn't you be, right? Like, you have no reason not to be. And you got the new stadium that you're trying to show off and everything. You want to put a good product on the floor. Totally makes sense to me. But yeah, keep bringing these guys in that are going to be valuable to somebody like at some point during the season, so that as soon as you want to hit the eject button, you can start shipping these guys out that are on pretty solid contracts and winning players. Shout out the Clippers for that one. It's a subtle move. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, maybe I'm confusing my rules because I've been learning all the new apron things for like my retainer job and everything with the team. But like, I thought if you got traded from a team in the season, you couldn't then go sign back with them. I gotta look that up. Shout out Reddit. Apparently somebody's got it here. A team cannot reacquire a player they traded away during that season. A season being July 1st to June 30th. Okay, so I guess just as soon as free agency hit, it was okay. I could have sworn there was something that said you couldn't do that before. Am I tripping? You guys let me know. Maybe I'm just like forgetting something. I don't know. Obviously, then the Klay Thompson news happened, right? Big news. I got a whole video on it that you guys can go check it out. I believe at the end of the day, the Warriors got like 2 second-round picks out of it, which like they're just fostering the trade at the end of the day. Very honorable move. Josh Green ended up in Charlotte, which great pickup for Charlotte. I had somebody in my comment section being like, hey, after the Reggie Jackson trade, they basically just got like a free second-round pick in Josh Green by the end of this. And it's like, yeah, no, very nice maneuvering by the Hornets GM as of late, honestly, doing a couple really nice trades to bring in a couple interesting players for them to try to develop. So shout out Charlotte, man. Y'all, I see it. Like, I see what y'all are doing. Y'all are doing a couple little things right here and there. And it's like, okay, that's not something I typically see out of this franchise. So let's hope that keeps going. Goga Bitadze coming back to the Magic on a 3-year, $25 million contract. Nothing from Mo Wagner yet, but we would assume that he's coming back. I'd like to think that because of this, it opens up the door for a Wendell trade. Like, and I don't necessarily think that trading Wendell is something that they like have to do. I think it could bolster like other positions for them, and they could still get a decent amount of value from the centers that they have. Because I don't think Wendell's like a long-term option necessarily for them anyway, but he is a positive on their team, given the rotation that they have to play. It's just, I just want to see Wendell get moved, and mostly in like a CJ McCollum type trade or something like that. But stay tuned for my video coming out tomorrow. I'm doing like a bunch of hypothetical trades that I want to see this offseason. But yeah, just something I'm thinking of. Who else forgot that Garrett Temple was still in the NBA? That was me. I forgot, but man, he's just going to keep on being a locker room guy. Good for him, man. Keep getting that NBA money. This is one I didn't really see coming. The Orlando Magic 2-year, $14 million contract to bring Gary Harris back after my whole Target analogy yesterday. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about by that, go watch the video from yesterday talking about the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signing. But bringing Gary Harris back, so hopefully in a smaller role, we'll kind of get that 3-and-D out of him that we've been hoping to get. And now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you got a little bit of defensive versatility. You got a couple shooters on the team. It's like, okay, what are we doing now, right? What are we doing? Like, just kind of need a true point guard on this team that can kind of do something, because while I like Suggs and I trust him a little bit more at the point guard than I did like going into last season, still a little sketchy on it. We'll see what happens with Anthony Black. Like, Cole Anthony's kind of more just like a scoring guard. He's not typically like a point guard or traditional point guard in that sense. So I'm not sure like what kind of holes we're necessarily filling on the team quite yet, but it's not like bad moves at the end of the day. So I guess we'll see with Orlando. In other news, we kind of covered these two in another video, but we'll just talk about the official contracts. Aaron Wiggins got a 5-year, $47 million deal. That is awesome. Like, very cool for him to see. Like, the Thunder did right by both these guys. Isaiah Joe got a 4-year, $48 million contract. I think that's a steal kind of for both of these guys that are pretty elite role players and pretty young in their career. Both of them bringing one, just a bunch of energy in Aaron Wiggins and some elite floor spacing and attacking of the rim with Isaiah Joe. So good on the Thunder for being like, no, you guys can get out of these cheap contracts right now. We'll start paying you guys today. You guys have earned it. You guys have worked your way into this after being kind of journeymen into the NBA. So the Thunder just continue to win, man. They just continue to win and lock up these guys that should be good rotational pieces for them going forward. And obviously they supplemented it with the Hartenstein deal. Like good stuff from OKC, man. Good stuff. Now let's just wait and see if they actually nailed that draft or if we were right and it was kind of a bust. DeAnthony Melton steps into the void that was Klay Thompson on the Golden State Warriors on that $12.8 million one-year deal. Look, like you still got to try to win games. You got Steph Curry at the end of the day. DeAnthony Melton is a really good basketball player. Like when he's healthy and everything, let's presume after a full offseason that he's kind of going to be good to go, and hopefully he'll be able to contribute on this team. The cool thing about him is he can play a couple different positions. Should be a good defender and shooter. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like the Warriors, we're going to have to see with them at the end of the day. What other moves are they going to make? Are they going to go after like a Levine or something? There's been rumors of a Lowry Markkanen or something like that. Like how far can a team like that go? I don't know. But it's not a bad signing at the end of the day. So shout out DeAnthony Melton for getting his money. Aaron Holiday, 2 years, $10 million. I didn't think he'd get that much. I honestly thought he'd get a minimum or something like that. But I like Aaron Holiday. He's a good game manager, solid shooter. No complaints about him whatsoever. Just kind of comes in and does his thing. Like all the Holiday brothers. They're just so, like, solid in their games, right? They know their roles constantly. Like Drew obviously does his thing. Justin, he's just like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be one of the quickest guns in the West. Just ready to bow. Aaron Holiday, just a good game manager. So shout out the Rockets. Like obviously wanting to have like some floor spacing, like point guards and everything is always big for them. So we like that addition. Just casually here, Jason Tatum got the biggest contract of all time. Quick math, 5-year, 314, 62, 63, 63. I think it's 63 million. We'll do the calculator later or something like that. But I think that's $63 million a year. Man, Deuce Tatum is one lucky kid. And that is nuts. I mean, you did it, man. You won the finals, right? Like, and you've been awesome. You've been constantly winning throughout your whole career. Like, you deserve to get paid. That's really awesome. You deserve to get paid at the end of the day. And I think that's all we got. I got to check my phone quick to make sure. I've been trying to save notifications all day to make sure I don't miss anything. All right, so there is one more thing I wanted to touch on. It's just the Lowry Markkanen rumors in general. So we've talked about this a little bit on the channel up to this point. The Utah Jazz are in this spot where they're like, look, they're always trying to win basketball games, right? Lowry Markkanen's their best player. He's kind of that borderline all-star role guy every single year. Really, really good basketball player, right? I don't need to explain that to you guys. Utah would like to maintain him because he's cool with being in Utah. That doesn't happen much for people, right? He's a good like guy in his prime and everything right now, and they want to win basketball games. So the Jazz are basically like, look, you guys have to absolutely like blow us out of the water to go make a trade for him. But there's a couple teams that have made it pretty obvious they want to go get him because they're willing to give him an extension. He's on a pretty cheap contract right now, $18 million. So he's cheaper than like a Patrick Williams, even for the level of like production that he puts out there. So you've got this really talented guy on a cheap contract that could really swing like a team into a different direction if they were to acquire him this year, just because he can do so much on the basketball court. So the teams that are being considered like the Timberwolves or something, we'd imagine like a Karl Anthony Towns trade or something. The Kings, maybe it's like Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, something like that. I don't know exactly. I'd have to do the math. But we've also seen like the San Antonio Spurs, which make a ton of sense, and the Golden State Warriors as they try to cling on to making sure Steph feels competitive and everything like that, right? There's a couple teams kind of eyeing him, and I'm like, what kind of offer do you have to throw at this team for them to pull the trigger at that? I don't know. I'm very curious to see, but again, we'll talk about it a little bit in my video tomorrow morning. Just kind of a silly little video to throw together for you guys that I think could be entertaining to listen to. Just some of my ideas that I have for trades, but yeah. That's it for today, y'all. I appreciate you guys watching, as always. I'm going to make sure I keep recapping everything from these free agency days and everything. I want to make sure that we're giving every little team that little bit of attention for all the moves that they're making. I just think it's a cool thing to do, and I like these little wrap-up things. So if you like them, let me know in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts about what were your favorite moves today. What moves are you still waiting to see? And if you're a Lakers fan, man, that sucks. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I appreciate you guys as always, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.